There are patterns I get to see from reading hundreds of letters from the people who watch this channel. And one very bad sign that someone is losing themselves in an unhappy relationship is that they write to me about their partner and how wonderful they are, and tell me about their partner's past and their partner's trauma and their partner's family. And all of this is leading up to also telling me how their partner isn't treating them well. Now, trauma might be an explanation for someone cheating and stonewalling and treating you badly, but it's not an excuse. And calling it trauma could be just a mechanism you're using to gaslight yourself that how they're treating you is okay and you need to keep putting up with it. My letter today is from a man who is dating a woman whose trauma wounds are damaging the relationship. And he writes, "Hello, Fairy. I'm a 33-year-old man and my girlfriend, who's 32, are in a relationship for a year and 2 months now, and we live together. I proposed to her 3 months ago because I really thought that everything will be great with her." All right, I've got the fairy pencil. I'm going to circle things I want to come back to. But let's go through and see what's going on with David. She's an architect. She's super smart. She likes books. She's disciplined. She has a good job, and she's cool, but she has cool but sometimes weird friends. I like them. She didn't have a good childhood. Her father was emotionally absent and was manipulative and didn't care about her. Her mom was super clingy on the other end and was like a helicopter parent. The parents divorced, and she has cut off contact with her father. This is all the stuff that sort of leads up. I start to go, what is this letter writer about to say? Why are they going so into detail about their partner's past? What's it about to justify? And he says, she doesn't know how to show emotions or show love. And he says he figured that out after a long time. But that was her defensive system because every time she showed emotions, her father would do something to harm her. I'm an artist, graphic designer, and I do all kinds of creative things. And I'm currently looking for a new job because I lost the one I had a month ago. I have a great loving family. My mom and dad still love each other and live happily. I have a brother and sister. I had my own share of problems and traumas, as we all have, but most of them I managed to fix with therapy and self-reflection and similar methods. Okay. Our relationship started kind of weird. We met on Tinder, maybe bad, he says, but we live in modern times. First few months were awesome and we clicked super good. Texting, sexting, and all the good stuff. Sex was great. She told me about her childhood and etc. Met her friends, went on a short trip with her. Everything was great. And somewhere in the third or fourth month, she told me she has a friend who she sees as a father figure. That was a little bit weird for me, but later on I discovered, I got info from her and her friends, and I sensed something weird, so I asked her, and she told me that she was with him, I think sexually and romantically, for a month or two when he traveled to our country. He lives outside the country. The guy has a wife and 2 kids, and he cheated on his wife with my girlfriend. My girlfriend and the guy were in contact even when I told her that it bothers me, until I asked her to quit the contact with him. They have like 5 or 6 year history communicating on all kinds of topics. I even found screenshots of them sexting while we looked at some pictures on her PC. All of that was before our relationship. Problem is, I didn't like that. I don't like to have a third person hanging around and making me uncomfortable. I decided to tell her it's either me or him. She chose me. Until then, we argued a lot about me wanting her to cut contact, and she tried all the ways to make me comfortable and to accept him as her friend, and tried all possible methods to stay in touch with him. I could not handle that because that is my boundary I have set. And one day I even saw a notification on her business phone from him. She switched to the phone thinking that I wouldn't notice it. I must say that I was in a 7-year relationship before my current girlfriend, and I got cheated on, and because of that, I have some kind of trauma being cheated on again. And I'm aware of it, and I think that is bad for me, and now I'm working on myself to fix it in therapy. Okay, well, Now, after she cut the contact with him, she's depressed, sex is non-existent, mood is weird, and the atmosphere is bad. We argue like every 3 days about that or some small stuff. After all this time, I realize that she's a bit selfish and doesn't show emotions to anyone. Our trust is gone. Mine is still there a little bit, but hers is gone. She constantly thinks I'm snooping and stalking, controlling her to the point that I can't ask with ease, how was your day? What's new on your job, etc. Thing is, she's a great person in general. I always wanted someone like her. The good part. We went to a therapist for couples counseling, and the therapist kind of agreed 90% on what I had to say and what I think about the situation and her. She has traumas from childhood that she reflects on me. I guess that's what the therapist said. I'm a big guy, and she's afraid of me with no reason. Only because I'm big, I was bald. I needed to let my hair grow so that she felt more comfortable with me and that I don't look like a wife beater to her. Oh dear. There are a lot of things like that I did, and every time we have a problem, she kind of wants to get away from the conflict. My opinion is to sit down and talk about the problem. She had a few tantrums because talking with me reminded her of her father, who forced her to listen to him about her mom. It's weird. There's like a little story and a justification for all the ways that she treats you badly. You're kind of bought into it. We discovered she has CPTSD. That kind of explains the guy friend with who she was with, and he explains to me CPTSD people tend to cling to emotionally unavailable people. Well, it might explain why she chose him, but it doesn't explain why she's kind of secretly hanging out with him, even though it doesn't work in her present-day relationship. So now she's depressed because she lost a friend and because we're arguing. She's scared about the future. She's scared that I will be a bad husband, but the logical side of her is thinking I'm a good guy and that I will be a good husband. Her mom knows about our problem. She's practically on my side, which was weird for me. Her friends think the same too. She doesn't want to go to therapy anymore because she feels exhausted. I would like to give this another chance. As I said, she's an awesome person. We have a ton in common, and I never felt like this for someone. Only if things could be a little bit better and if we could stop the constant arguing loop. I did all in my power to fix stuff, and now I kind of don't know what to do else. Good communication, presence, dates, travel, showing love and affection, went to therapy together, and me alone, clean the house so she has more time for herself, etc., etc. I like what you're doing. I would like for our trust to become good again, and that we love each other normally, support each other, and go to a bright future. Maybe even try and help her heal her traumas or help her manage it. Sorry if my English is bad and if there are grammar issues. It was fine. She's watching your channel, and it would mean a lot for me if you could help me out anonymously. Okay, I wonder, I mean, I certainly change everybody's name, but I wonder if she'll recognize herself. So, David, fake name. I don't think you guys are in a good spot to get married. I think that's wishful thinking. And I'll talk to you about that. Now, maybe you guys have the makings of a relationship there. You don't have to leave right now, but it sounds like the cart got way ahead of the horse. I think you guys are living together and you propose to her, you want to marry her, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in your relationship that is just sort of screaming that this relationship is not ready to make that step to marriage. So first of all, I called out in your letter that there's just a lot of stuff that, there's not a lot of insight about yourself here. There's a lot of insight about her. What I detect in you is something I see in letters of people often when they really don't want to leave the relationship. It often comes up when people have been in couples counseling, because then they can have the sort of like psychological jargon where you're kind of justifying all these things she's doing that are not loving and not committed and not consistent with somebody who plans to get married. That's what it is. Now, she is where she is. So she has this guy in her life. She's had an affair with him. They cheated on his wife. That is very serious. And they want to be just friends, and you're not comfortable with it. So she's not okay that you have a boundary about it. You don't quite have a boundary about it. You're trying to have a boundary about it. But I'll tell you what a boundary is. A boundary is you leave. You have told her your preferences, and she just sort of walked right over them. So there's not really a boundary there. Your boundary would be if you break up over it. And I wouldn't like it either. I think that it is possible for people to have friends of the, who of the opposite sex, or super long ago exes, very, very long ago, where there's no energy and it's not making anyone jealous. But why do I have a feeling that her relationship with him is secret from his wife? If people have to be lied to about this, and also that she's keeping these sext messages, keeping them, yeah, I'm with you, buddy. She's not fully emotionally available to you. And she's kind of making you the bad guy, and she's telling you this trauma story, or at least you're telling yourself this trauma story that, well, she has to do this because she had trauma. I had trauma, and I don't agree with that. We are capable of showing up for relationships. So it's pretty normal for people to be a little messy around relationships. There's sort of like an ex here and maybe a new thing here. I think it doesn't work very well, and I think traumatized people have trouble setting limits on that kind of thing, and they have trouble having boundaries when it's not okay with them, they don't know how to walk away from it because the attachment wound is bad. So you say you had a great childhood, but I hear you being attached to somebody who's really not treating you in a way that's okay with you. And that's why, you're kind of building the case. The therapist said it, your friend said it, but she's the one who's not changing, and she's not trusting you. And so, sometimes I just try to put myself in the shoes of the other person. And she feels that you snooped. You're saying that you didn't. You talked to her, you asked her questions. These screenshots showed up when she was showing you something on her PC. So you're not saying that you snooped. I guess she feels like you did. So I'll just assume that you haven't snooped. But she's thinking that's, if you haven't snooped, that is the hallmark. Her behavior is the hallmark of somebody who has something to hide. That's what it feels like. Now, even if her thing with this guy is just a friendship or whatever, if it makes you uncomfortable, she's not, adjusting her life to work for you. And I don't think you're crazy to be uncomfortable with it. Some people would be comfortable, some people wouldn't, most wouldn't. Not everybody could be honest about it. So I applaud you. You've been honest about it. You've just said it's not okay. But this came up in the 3rd or 4th month, and it bothered you that you said to her, you don't like it. And what gets muddy here is 3 or 4 months of dating. It's a bit early to put demands on people about who can be in their life. So maybe it wasn't a demand. Maybe you just told her it feels bad to you, and she decided to go ahead and see him anyway. I think that's what you're saying. So what she was doing right there is showing you she's not going to change because it hurts you. And that is not somebody you marry, all right? I get a lot of letters from people who are trying to work out whether a relationship can work in the long run. And just because we're bothered by somebody doesn't mean we're right, doesn't mean we deserve to get what we want. Each of us always have to just decide, like, how do I feel about the way things actually are in this relationship? How are they? What are they actually like? And that's what we're experiencing. So we have a tendency sometimes to go, if it would just change, if you just didn't fight every day, if she just wouldn't be dragging you through this thing where you're scared she's cheating all the time. There it is. It's not supposed to feel like that. And if it feels like that now, it's not a good sign. It's just not a good sign. So I don't think it's like a crime that she's in this sort of foggy place. I just think she's not ready, and I think you're not ready, and you're trying to find a way to make this work somehow. And I think you could talk yourself into it, but I hope you won't. I hope you won't. I hope you'll just sort of let the situation be what it is, let information come to you about it, and just see, is this really what you want? Is there ever a day where you actually feel good about this? Is this resolving this thing that doesn't feel right? Something that somebody advised my husband and me before we got married was to go ahead and tell each other any secrets that we still had, and to get that out on the table so that the other person had a chance to understand what they were getting into. And that was some of the best advice I ever had. I just had a couple things, the stuff that I was embarrassed about, and I wanted him to know. And he heard them and he said, okay. And he didn't have anything. But we had been dating for about 4 years at that point. 3 years we got engaged, another 2 years we got married, and somewhere in there, we got some counseling about it to try to get really clear. Is this really what we want? And that advice was good. And I just think how terrible it would have been at any earlier time in my life if I had tried to, well, I did have an earlier marriage, and it just, trying to get into something where everything isn't on the table and you're afraid to say what's really bothering you, like, it just won't do. It's not going to hold. It's such a project being married, and there's just so much to get through with each other when things get hard and tense and somebody's sad. So you want to have that basis where everything is really honest and there's really good faith there. So I say pause the wedding. That's what I'm thinking. So I hear you that she's an awesome person, and there's a lot of love there. And I love that you've done everything you can to make the situation better. And what I want to help you just accept is it's just not good enough, not right now. So you don't have to leave the relationship, but I would really encourage you to get that talk of the wedding off the table. If you want to get clear about, what's a red flag about somebody, I have listed a bunch of things, and I've made a PDF, and you can download it for free. It's right there. You just click on that and sign up, and we'll send it to you. And I will see you very, very soon.